Good morning. I'm Eileen Terrell, and I'm a worship associate here at Horizon. We are excited to welcome you to our worship this morning. We're so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us in person or virtually, whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been here longer than you can remember. I'm almost to that point myself. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. Before we begin worship, we do have a few announcements. I encourage you to read the inserts in your order of service and the printed announcements on the right side in your order of service. And now I ask Elizabeth Gustwick, coordinator of our stewardship circle, to come up and talk about our upcoming fall auction.
Thank you. I wanted to add a little bit extra emphasis for the fall auction. This is an event that's backed by popular demand. This is a wonderful opportunity to create an event where you're hosting people in your house, like for a game night or a themed dinner. And there's many different things you might offer, that made items or special events. This is the last week. That's why it's so important today. This is the last week. There's information here about where you can click and go and add in your offering for the Horizon Fall Auction this year. Thank you.
And now I would ask Kent Darwin, who heads our Art on the Horizon ministry, to speak about the artists whose work, if you look around, you see beautifying our sanctuary today. Kent?
Good morning. My name is Kent Darwin, and I have the responsibility to fill our sanctuary with art. This morning I introduced you to 4 artists whose works are on our walls this month and next month, who share their love of art, share their passion for painting, and share their creations with others such as us. After the worship, they will be standing at their art for a while so that you can have an opportunity for a greet and meet. So let's begin. Kalika Atal. Kalika was born in India and migrated to the United States as a teenager. She is a self-taught artist, like many of us are. Her vision of landscapes, full of compositions, and abstract paintings are drawn from our world travels and our home here in the United States. She has been recognized multiple times as the favorite artist by the Oil Painters of America. Kalika believes in sharing and giving back, and one example is having her art on our wall. Another example, she does art classes for teenagers who are homeless. Kalika is vice president of the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco's board, and that particular guild has over 200 artists in their organization. Please welcome Kalika. Heidi Kidd is a professional textile designer by trade and working for the Shannon Young Incorporated in Dallas. She draws and paints and working in watercolors and pastels for herself as well as the company, while painting techniques reflect her design work where she was trained. Her art style weaves together designs elements of Impressionism as well as realism. Her studies of nature is by taking long walks, running, and also hikes. Her love of nature really shines through her art. She graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. Her degree is in textile design, and she also had a semester in Winchester School of Art in England. She also attended the Student League of Art in New York City and learned classic drawing and painting. Please welcome Heidi. Holly Reeder found her true love painting with acrylics. Her main focus is drawing and painting realism of our natural environment as well as animals. Believing in herself in 2018, she made the decision to pursue a career in art. Holly's degrees in risk management, marketing, and insurance from the University of Georgia sure gives her a good foundation to assist her in her art career. Her art hangs in offices and homes across the United States. She also has a lifelong interest in art and chose to volunteer as a teacher in her daughter Claire's school. She also introduced those children not only to her art and art for themselves, but many of the famous artists and their techniques for painting. Please welcome Holly. Now, this is where my international language may get hung up a little bit. The last of the four artists is Zara Jahanafard. She is from Iran. She is a designer and artist. She attended Pardis University in Isfahan, Iran. And after that, she developed for that area. She established her own professional art institute, Bahar, in Najafabad, Iran. After immigrating to the United States in 2007, she continued her education at the University of Central Missouri, where she got a BA degree in fine arts and studio art. And she was fortunate enough to get a scholarship from that area to go and live and study in Paris before coming back and starting her career in art. Her artwork for such years has been exhibited in numerous venues around the world. She has received multiple awards in the United States and in Iran. And I will do a quote from her that I think is very special. She says, her artwork is the evolution from a school building in Iran to the fulfillment of her American dream. It is the story of her life and experience and comes from her heart to all people. Please welcome Zahn. Their exhibit will be up through Christmas Day 2022. And thank you very much.
And now, I would like to introduce today's service leader, Gilbert Gil Guerrero. He is a social worker and staff psychotherapist in a larger private practice in Dallas. Some here may remember before becoming a social worker, he was a member and the congregational administrator at Horizon. Over the years, he was active as an adult RE facilitator, lay leader, and occasional preacher, including his sermon, The Gospel of the Grateful Dead. While he considers himself a newbie among his beyond categorical thinking peers, he is shocked to realize that he has been facilitating beyond categorical thinking for 13 years. I give you Gil Guerrero.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Fellow travelers, seekers, kindred, pilgrim souls, holy and beautiful is the custom which brings us together in the presence of the great mystery of this life, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of the ages, the cathedral music of history. 3 unseen guests attend: faith, hope, love. Let all our hearts prepare them a place. Come, let us worship together. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom.
And now, please rise as you are able in body or in spirit as we say our affirmation, which is located in your order of service and printed on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. And now, please remain standing as you are willing or able for our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Faith in Texas is our Share the Plate recipient for the month of November. There are 3 ways to give. In today's service, in person, when the baskets are passed, or online at horizonuu.org by clicking the Giving button in the top right-hand corner. Find option is a drop-down menu, and you can select Share the Plate. Or you can mail checks made out to Horizon UU Church. Our address can be found on the homepage of our website. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jamie Kalasar, Senior Pastor of the Dallas City Temple and current Executive Director of Faith in Texas, to talk about this organization. Please welcome Pastor Jamie.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I almost felt some type of way. I wanted to be an artist sitting in the midst of all these wonderful women here, and I forgot what I'm here for. But now that I was reminded, I'm going to do my job here today. My name is Jamie Collisar. If you've heard, I am the Executive Director of Faith in Texas, a transplant from New York City to this wonderful, big, great state that we call Texas. It is a joy and a privilege to serve as the Executive Director of Faith in Texas, which is a multi-faith organization that believes in gathering people from all faiths, all walks of life, to fight for those that we determine as the Bible calls the least of these. I'll share a story with you very briefly. And if there's a gardener in here, if anybody who does gardening, you know that if you plant a flower and that flower or those crops don't grow the way you want them to, you don't yell at the flower. The first thing you do is you fix the soil because you understand that there's a problem with the environment. Well, I share that story because there's a problem with the soil in Texas. That there's a problem that we are dealing with as taxpayers when it comes to Lew Sterrett County Jail. Right now, as we are sitting here, there is a mother that is sitting inside the jail for about 3 or 4 weeks because she can't get a trial in order to go back to her family. There is a father who was locked up behind bars, warehoused like an animal in a cage, who was sitting in there waiting for a trial just to get in front of a judge so that they may be free. And so what Faith in Texas does, the work that we do, and it's not just on criminal justice reform, but it's ensuring that all people have access to the rights that they deserve. We ensure that all people can have the right to vote. We ensure that all people can enjoy the liberties that they are deserving of because they are a human. And so with your offerings, with your graciousness, with your gratitude, and thank you, Horizon, for being a partner with Faith in Texas throughout the years from the beginning of this organization, it allows us to continue to do the work, to speak up on behalf of the least of these, to be a voice for the voiceless, and to bring hope where there is darkness. And I believe that together, that we can change and turn this world upside down, that when people of faith come together and use their supernatural power by the God that gives it to us, we can make a difference. And so Horizon, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm going to try to stay as long as I can, but I have to go down to Lew Sterrett Jail because there's going to be a demonstration in front of the county jail as well. But I promise this won't be the last time I'll be here. I will be back, and maybe I'll bring a few of my doodles so that you can hang it up on the wall. And hopefully I can get some, generate some interest on that as well. But thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you, for the Faith in Texas t-shirts that I see here. And thank you for making me be a part of your congregation and your family. God bless.
We have a responsive reading. It's number 634 in the gray hymnal. Oh, it's going to be up on the screen. I'm sorry. It's also going to be on screen. Now is the time for turning. The birds are beginning to turn once more towards the south. For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively.
But for us, turning does not come so easily.
It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits.
It means admitting that we have been wrong, and this is never easy.
It means losing face. It means starting all over again. And this is always painful. It means recognizing that we have the ability to change. These things are hard to do.
But unless we turn, we will be trapped forever in yesterday's ways.
God, help us to turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, from fear to faith.
Turn us around, O God, and bring us back toward you.
Revive our lives as at the beginning.
And turn us toward each other, for in isolation there is no life.
Love is the doctrine of this church, and it is with this principle that we walk with one another through our joys and sorrows, and especially in the ways these things tend to arrive all at once in one tangled blessing we call life. We now take time to honor the sorrows and joys of this community, knowing that we are interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. We have an anonymous joy for everyone here today, in person and online and in spirit. When you turn on the radio, when you turn on the TV, there is so much in the news that is concerning, stimulating, some uplifting, locally and internationally. I have no specific concerns to raise today. My friend Pam Schuman, who's going to be worship associate, wanted to encourage everybody, go out and vote. If you have not already, express your opinion. It's the most powerful weapon, tool, better than weapon, the most powerful tool that you have right now. And find an organization to take part in to back up that vote, whatever it may be. So, as I light this candle to honor the joys and sorrows that have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts, let us feel the ways that we are all connected to each other and to all beings. There's not one for me to light because they're all lit. And that would have been me. Oh well. So let's take a few minutes to breathe in and to breathe out. This breath we share with all on our earth and in our universe. Feel the love of the universe flowing through this community into you and out again into this community and surrounding communities and into the universe again. Use your love to give hope to those beings that you meet, helping them to find peace and happiness, to be strong and healthy in body and in spirit, to be joyful and caring. Be the light that you already are. That is enough. Blessed be, so may it be. Amen. A brief note, Pam is not worship associate today because she's feeling unwell, but overall she's fine, so no worries. Our second reading today is The Great End in Religious Instruction by William Ellery Channing. This again is a responsive reading. The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own.
Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own.
Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth. not to bind them with ineradicable prejudices to our particular sect or peculiar idioms and notions, not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought. In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul to excite and cherish spiritual life. I went to a workshop on worship 10, 15 years ago. And the huge takeaway from that was when you have a worship service, you can have up to 3 things go wrong, and it is not out of control. So we skipped the responsive to the offering and the pastoral prayer. We will do it now. Thank you, Carmen.
I have some short readings to share with you before my message. This first reading is from a controversial figure. His name is Carlos Castañeda. Carlos Castañeda was an anthropology student at UCLA, and this bit of wisdom that he offers here is written as a dialogue between him and his mentor, a man named that he referred to as Don Juan. So the questions are being presented by Carlos and the responses are being given by Don Juan. Carlos asks, what is a man of knowledge? A man of knowledge is one who has followed truthfully the hardships of learning. A man who has, without rushing or without faltering, gone as far as he can in unraveling the secrets of power and knowledge. Can anyone be a man of knowledge? No, not anyone. Then what must a man do to become a man of knowledge? He must challenge and defeat his 4 natural enemies. Anyone can try to become a man of knowledge. Very few men actually succeed, but that is only natural. The enemies a man encounters on the path to learning to become a man of knowledge are truly formidable. Most succumb to them. When a man starts to learn, he's never clear about his objectives. His purpose is faulty. His intent is vague. He hopes for rewards that will never materialize, for he knows nothing of the hardships of learning. He slowly begins to learn, bit by bit at first, then in big chunks, and his thoughts soon clash. What he learns is never what he pictured or imagined, and so he begins to be afraid. Learning is never what one expects. Every step of learning is a new task, and the fear the man is experiencing begins to mount mercilessly, unyieldingly. His purpose becomes a battlefield, and thus he has stumbled upon the first of his natural enemies, fear, a terrible enemy, treacherous and difficult to overcome. It remains concealed at every turn, prowling and waiting. And if the man, terrified in its presence, runs away, his enemy will have put an end to his quest. What will happen to the man if he runs away in fear? Nothing happens to him except that he will never learn. He will never become a man of knowledge. And what can he do to overcome fear? The answer is very simple. He must not run away. He must defy his fear, and in spite of it, he must take the next step in learning and the next and the next. He must be fully afraid, and yet he must not stop. And a moment will come when his first enemy retreats. Once a man has vanquished fear, he is free from it for the rest of his life because he has acquired clarity, a clarity of mind which erases fear. He can anticipate the new steps of learning, and a sharp clarity surrounds everything. The man feels that nothing is concealed, and thus he has encountered his second enemy, clarity. That clarity of mind, which is so hard to obtain, dispels fear, but it also blinds. It forces the man never to doubt himself. It gives him the assurance he can do anything that he pleases, for he sees clearly into everything. And he is courageous because he is clear, and he stops at nothing because he is clear. But all that is a mistake. It is like something incomplete. If the man yields to this make-believe power, he has succumbed to his second enemy and will be patient when he should rush. And he will fumble with learning until he winds up incapable of learning anything more. His second enemy has just stopped him cold from trying to become a man of knowledge. Instead, the man may turn into a buoyant warrior or a clown. He will be clear as long as he lives, but he will no longer learn or yearn for anything. But what does he have to do to avoid being defeated? He must do what he did with fear. He must defy his clarity and use it only to see and wait patiently and measure carefully before taking new steps. He must think above all that his clarity is almost a mistake. And a moment will come when he will understand that his clarity was only a point before his eyes. And thus, he will have overcome his second enemy and will arrive at a position where nothing can harm him anymore. This will not be a mistake. It will not be only a point before his eyes. It will be true power. He will know at this point that the power he has been pursuing for so long is finally his. His ally is at his command. But he's also come across his third enemy, power. Power is the strongest of all enemies. And naturally, the easiest thing to do is to give in. After all, the man is truly invincible. He commands because he is a master. A man at this stage hardly notices his third enemy is closing in on him, and suddenly, without knowing, he will certainly have lost the battle. His enemy will have turned him into a cruel, capricious man. A man who is defeated by power dies without really knowing how to handle it. Power is only a burden upon his fate. Such a man has no command over himself and cannot tell when or how to use his power. How can he defeat this third enemy, Don Juan? He has to defy it deliberately. He has to come to realize the power he has seemingly conquered is in reality never his. If he can see that clarity and power without his control over himself are worse than mistakes, he will reach a point where everything is held in check. He will know then when and how to use his power, and thus he will have defeated his third enemy. The man will be by then at the end of his journey of learning, and almost without warning, he will come upon the last of his enemies, old age. This enemy is the cruelest of all, the one he won't be able to defeat completely, but only fight away. This is the time when a man has no more fears, no more impatient clarity of mind, but also the time when he has an underlying, unyielding desire to rest. If he gives in totally to his desire to lie down and forget, if he soothes himself in tiredness, he will have lost this last round. But if the man sloughs off his tiredness and lives his faith through, he can be called a man of knowledge, if only for the brief moment when he succeeds in fighting off his last invincible enemy. That moment of clarity, power, and knowledge is enough. My second, very short reading is from the play Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. Cyrano describes the fair Roxanne. She is a danger mortal, all unsuspicious, full of charms unconscious, like a sweet perfumed rose, a snare of nature, within whose petals Cupid lurks in ambush. He who has seen her smile has known perfection, instilling into trifles grace's essence. Divinity in every careless gesture, not Venus' self can mount her conch blown seaward, as she can step into her chaise à porteur, nor Diane fleet across the woods spring-flowered, light as my lady o'er the stones of Paris. The question is always the same, though it has many variants. Gil, are you Italian? No, I'm not Italian, I'm American. So I had the privilege of seeing the actor and activist Edward James Olmos speak once during the period of time that I lived in Los Angeles, and soon after the Rodney King riots. He said he was often criticized by some members of the Latino community for not speaking up exclusively or vocally enough about his Mexican heritage, to which he said that he usually replied that Mexican was pretty far down his identity list. First and foremost, he offered that he was a human. Second, a North American. Third, a United States of American. And then perhaps fourth, a Mexican American. But truthfully, even that is not a fine enough sieve to tell us very much about him. Since many of you, we will only have a few hours to know each other in that spirit, I offer the following quick list of my identities. I'm a human. I'm a male. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I used to be Roman Catholic, capital R, capital C. I'm now just a Catholic, little c. I'm a Christian. I'm left-handed. I'm an only child. I'm North American. I'm Mexican American. I'm Texan. I'm a product of prep school. I'm a product of art school. I am a social worker. I am too Christian to be a UU and too UU to be a Christian. Now, we have all of those terrific categories to slot me into, but they still don't tell you much of who I am, do they? Although no doubt the wheels are turning. The question is always the same, though it has many variants. Gil, are you Spanish? No, I'm not Spanish. I'm from Texas. You don't sound like you're from Texas. What can I say? I went to prep school. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, where more than 60% of the population identify as Latino or Hispanic. San Antonio, like many towns, has had its share of tensions around the ethnic composition of her inhabitants. I always noticed our particular version of détente the most in our famous annual fiesta celebration, a couple of weeks of parties, street festivals, and parades, started in 1891 as a celebration of the heroes of the Alamo and the Battle of San Jacinto. Some fine society ladies decorated their coaches and proceeded to parade around downtown, pelting each other with flowers. And the Battle of Flowers is now billed as the second largest parade in the country, just behind the Tournament of Roses. And if you're going to have parades, you have to have pretty ladies. And San Antonio society was happy to provide lots of debutantes and dashing young men to escort them. And the king of the event, King Antonio. And a funny thing for a town that has 60% Hispanic population, that king and his court were usually all, shall we say, pigmentation impaired. After 55 years of being on the outside looking in, the Mexicanos decided that maybe there ought to be a Mexicano king. Our little scamps in the Mexican community named their king El Rey Feo, the ugly king. They took their cue from a medieval Spanish tale of peasant unrest who crowned their own ironic people's king, the ugly one. And a short 33 years later, the fine ladies and gentlemen who run Fiesta decided, hey, you know what? That Rey Feo bunch is pretty fun. Maybe they should be an official part of the Fiesta family events. He even got his own parade. Can anyone say separate but equal? I've had a very blessed and privileged life. I went to the finest private prep school in San Antonio. My father was a civil servant with the Air Force for 37 years, and our family has always had strong belief in the power of education. His parents immigrated from Mexico in the teens of the 20th century. My granddad was a cowhand who worked the cattle ranches in South Texas. My blonde-haired and blue-eyed mother, who recently passed, was adopted and is probably the product of German or South Texas Czech stock. I also say that I'm blessed because until a few years ago, I only knew of one overtly racist event in my life. Ah, the beautiful Roxanne. Cyrano was right in describing her charms. Roxanne was a glorious, long-stemmed South Texas beauty with a glowing, friendly smile and gorgeous blue eyes. And I was a shy, sheltered, prep-schooled, half-breed kid trying to get a little experience in the world and had landed first as an orderly and then as a ward clerk in a large regional hospital. Roxanne and I were friendly, and being roughly the same age and hormonal maturity, I began to try to get her to go out with me. It seemed like the usual mating ritual of Homo sapiens sapiens, some coy denials, unavailable, but they felt, to a sheltered fellow like me, like all I needed was just a smidge more charm to win her affections, until my friend Andy, an orderly, waded in one night. Gil, Roxanne really doesn't want you to ask her out anymore. Really? Why? Because she said she won't go out with a Mexican. I actually started laughing. Andy was a kidder. But I thought, well, this deserves a little follow-up with the horse's mouth. So the next time I saw the fair Roxanne, I cautiously inquired, Andy told me something, but I don't think I understood. To which Roxanne replied, I thought it was clear. Uh-huh. Well, I really had led a sheltered life. This was so far out of left field, it could have been from another planet. A meteor could have landed in front of me. Wow, look, a meteor. Wow, look, a racist. At my school, the only tension I had ever seen was about whether someone was smarter than someone else. I couldn't even be angry about it because it was just so completely foreign to my experience of the world. And as it does, the world marched on. I have no idea what happened to Roxanne, though the tall African-American veteran LVN who was my guardian and mom on the ward had some choice suggestions. I wish the fair Roxanne peace on her path wherever she has landed. Perhaps I should have been angry with her, but all I really had was pity for her and the ignorance she was raised with. The question is always the same, though it has many variants. Gil, are you Dutch Indonesian? You're Dutch Indonesian, I can tell. Now, this is a particular favorite of my lovely wife, who's sitting over here, who will testify that I actually received this question. I think for some people, it's just kind of a downer that you're a Mexican. They will really dance around the topic to save themselves that discomfort. Dutch Indonesian? Well, so to be fair, We were in an Indonesian restaurant, and apparently I was wearing a Dutch Indonesian haircut at the time. Who knew that there was such a thing as a Dutch Indonesian haircut? No, I'm Mexican American to be precise. Tamales and menudo and a bunch of little tias sitting around drinking coffee, Mexican American. I said that I'm a social worker, and my area of specialty for many years has been in battering intervention. I was raised by 8 mothers, my biological mother, who recently passed, my paternal grandmother, and my father's 6 sisters. So in many ways, this was a very reasonable path. Working with primarily men who've been abusive to their partners, I've always seen women's equality as simply self-evident and table stakes. But this work has taught me a lot about oppression. Oppression is a funny thing. When we think of the word, I think most of us fall victim to the idea that racism and oppression are individual traits and failings done by bad people. We take giant leaps to hate-filled supremacists and Klanners and horrific deaths, horrific events like the death of Matthew Shepard or the dragging death of James Byrd in East Texas. And those are so far away from anything that we aspire to as Unitarian Universalists, we can be comfortably appalled by them from a distance. We're not like that. We completely and categorically oppose that. Oppression is a funny thing. I used to believe that oppression was an individual failing, but I've come to understand that the various isms in the world, sexism, racism, heterosexism, classism, etc., are actually systems that occur at the intersection of power and bias. Working in abusive intervention, I have to say, I've been handed my ass more than one time by kind female mentors and co-facilitators who've called me to reflect on how I've colluded unintentionally in sexism. That's one of the most challenging things about colluding in these systems is that we can do it unintentionally because we go along with the things that we received and believe are normal and that are the way of the world. The jokes we told and laughed at, the conventional wisdom that we accepted uncritically. I've said that I only know about 2 events of personal racism that were directed at me personally, but I wonder about the ones I don't know about. And I've become much more reflective on the systemic expression of racism. Oppression seldom comes with a noose or with dogs in the night anymore, or from a bus driver sending you to the back of the bus, or in a hospital hallway to your face. I think today most of it is quite subtle. A reasonable law that somehow seems to disproportionately affect a single population. The presumption that a person with light skin or a fine vocabulary must be honest. A resume that gets shifted to the bottom of the stack. A phone call that doesn't get returned. A wink, a whisper, a nudge. As Don Juan tries to instruct poor Carlos, the false idol of clarity can close us off from learning and true knowledge. I've seen this in my own and in congregations that I've visited. You can't be a Christian and be you. Well, most people aren't you-yous because they aren't as smart as we are. You know, we prefer a man and a woman, a couple, because that's natural. When we know that Mexicans always have big families, I'm an only child with an only child. When we know that a disabled person can't keep up with us, when we know that Christians are all fundamentalists, when we know that gay people only talk about gay stuff, when we know what's natural or uncritically accept the way of the world, clarity has defeated us. When we fall into that shorthand, when we try to paint universal truths with those dull categorical brushstrokes, we fail ourselves and we fail our faith. We fail our faith in our interdependent web of life. We fail our faith in the ongoing search for truth and meaning. We fail our faith in inherent worth and dignity. Today, Horizon is continuing on your journey to call a new minister. I'll be facilitating a short workshop called Beyond Categorical Thinking because those of us who do it believe that it is vitally important ministry that you get the absolute best match for your congregation. And we truly believe that your chances of getting the best match greatly improve by sitting down and talking about this lazy shorthand, the categories that sneak into our thinking and can possibly block you from getting your best match. And I hope to see you there. So I'd like to ask you if you'll clear your mind and share an intention with me into the universe at this moment. May we always be open to new truth. May we always seek the path of knowledge. May we always have clarity without hubris. May we always honor and bring honor to our faith. Amen. And our closing hymn today is number 121, We Will Build a Land.
And now, we extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to Horizon's mission to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. And we do this because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in the world.
Fellow pilgrims, our worship is ended, but now our service begins. Hear these words of W.E.B. Du Bois that seem so appropriate today, even as they were when they were written. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some other convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. Go now in peace to be the change we want in the world. Amen.